how to repair a CD changer in a 2006 Cadillac SRX with the nav system. There's a fuse in the back seat, and that's what you really want to pull. Consult your owner's manual. These I got off the internet, these interior trim removal toolkit. There's a thinner one you might have used, but by all means don't use a screwdriver. If you look at this next video, you can see where you might be able to insert a thinner tool. But this is the upper vent in the center console stack, and you can just pry it loose. I do it by inserting that end underneath the trim and then rotating it up, but you can see that slot right there where you might be able to slide a thinner tool in there. Do the same thing for the HVAC controls, you know, the AC controls that are down low. You can see those slots where those trim clips fit in. Just pull that whole thing. So you can just pull the whole thing loose, and that exposes the 4 screws, 2 in the top and 2 in the bottom. They're 10mm bolts, and what I'll do is use an electric variable torque screwdriver, and that way I set it real low until it just barely breaks the bolts loose, and then I know exactly how hard to put them back in, especially with plastic. That way you don't worry about breaking it. Anyway, just support it with one hand and reach around the back and pull the plugs. They're all different shapes, so don't worry about labeling them. You get the antenna wire, of course, and then there's that CD wire, changer wire stays like that. Put it on a bench with a towel so that when you drop screws, they don't bounce all over the place. So then it's just a question of getting it apart. I mean, these instructions apply to this model. Some are different, but this is what the 2006 SRX with nav unit. Anyway, you're going to pull these the CD changer out of these brackets on the side. It's pretty obvious, just those 2 screws there that hold it in. The CD changer is the one with all the holes in it. There you see it coming loose. And just set it on the bench, put the nav unit somewhere else, and just remove the 3 screws on the top. That top cover covers the motherboard. So that's the 1 screw in the front. And then the back right screw, right side of the unit. And back left side of the unit. You can see the left side of the unit on the top cover has those holes punched in it. And then 1 screw out. Right rear screw out. And then the front screw out, and that whole cover will lift out. You can take the front plate off at this time, but I did it in a slightly different order. So just gently pry up the motherboard cover. That's what I call that outer case. I don't know what you call it, but there's the motherboard, so I figured motherboard cover. And then go ahead and remove the front faceplate by removing these 2 screws on either side, and then gently prying up that clip that's in the front. This is all pretty obvious if you just take a minute and look at it. Again, mostly this is for my benefit so that in case I lose anything, but this can help you too. You can see the different screw styles. So that's just a clip. Again, be gentle with these things. You don't want to crack them. They'll rattle. And then there are a couple of clips there that you just push in gently and lift it apart. If you've taken an Xbox apart, you can do this. Easy. So that's the front of the cover right there. The front of the CD changer. And that's basically the guts right in there. But you're going to have to keep going. Get the 4 screws on the bottom, and that'll separate the internal chassis from the outside cover. Those are just 4 machine screws. And now you want to remove the rear plate. It's got 3 screws. That's one spot where it was on the side, the one in the middle between the 2 connectors, and then the one on the right. That plate will come out and help you get a little more access. Those are the 3 screws that came off the end plate. So you can start to see, this is the first glimpse of the CDs. Now you want to remove the 6 screws retaining the motherboard itself. And you can see that that square up at the top shows the data ribbon cable that's going to need to come out. You need to be real careful with that ribbon connector. I fractured it, but put it back in, and it still held. But you want to be as careful as possible. These are just 6 machine screws. You can see they screw into the brass on the motherboard retaining plate. There's your ribbon cable. Be real gentle. Use magnifying here if you're old like me and don't see as well as you used to. But it's got a couple of tangs on either end. You pull that out, and it's basically it just jams in there. If you've done any computer work, it's a standard ribbon cable connector. So I call this the motherboard chassis with the retaining plate or whatever. That's got to come out so you can access, what's going on inside the changer. There's the changer. You can see a metal plate across the top. It's spring retained, that metal plate right there. And that's what pushes down. But you can see that the centers of the CDs are misaligned right there. So that's the outer cover, the lower cover for the CD changer. You want to go ahead and pull that off. And that's the bottom of the CD changer there, and you can see that spring. That's what causes the tension on that tension plate that keeps the CDs from unstacking inside. There you can see that plate's been pushed off to the top here. That's actually the left of the CD changer. That yellow triangle is where the laser is, so that's the front of the CD changer, and then you can see the gears on the back. Those are the gear and gear motors. Those move the carriage front and back and up and down. So you can kind of see all 3 motors here. And those are the gears that you're going to be wanting to spin. You want it back, towards the back and down as far as you can. That'll free up these little horseshoes, and then you're going to also spin the one for the laser, so that moves that arm out of the way. Here you can see that the laser arm is moved all the way out of the way. So these little black horseshoe shaped things, once the carriage is out of the way, they just slide right out, and then you want to restack them and make sure they're free. They just kind of float in there, and that's what separates the CDs one from another. And once you get it all squared away, they're real free and easy to stack in and out. So then you just a process of putting it back together. Put the motherboard chassis back on, make sure the ribbon cable comes up through to where you can put it back into the motherboard. Put the end plate back on. Put the front cover back on, the face plate. Make sure these little tangs on the cover go in where they need to go. And you're basically done. You just got to bolt it back into the nav unit, put the nav unit back into the vehicle. Like I said, pull the fuse first and then reinstall the fuse when you're done. That reboots or reinitializes the CD changer. I've had absolutely no problems with it since I did this repair. If you go slow, it takes a little bit of time to do, but hopefully you'll be as successful with your repair as I was.